Welcome to Kozversations, where your host, Carl Kozlowski, talks with the world's most interesting people. And now, this week's Kozversation. Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to another edition of Kozversations, coming to you from the luxurious studios of Radio Titans in Los Angeles. As always, I'm your host, Carl Kozlowski, and I'm bringing you yet another fascinating person from the world of pop culture, politics, and beyond. Today, I'm bringing you a comedy legend, Paul Rodriguez, who was the star of the first network television sitcom ever to revolve around a Latino character, in AKA Pablo. He also went on to be a host of the Newlywed Game, his own talk show on Univision, and starred in countless feature films and TV shows over the last few decades. He also tours constantly as one of America's most popular headlining comics, and will be appearing at the Ice House next weekend in Pasadena, California. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Paul Rodriguez. Yeah, so thanks for taking the time, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, so you're in the middle of doing a tour right now, or just getting ready for a bunch of summer dates? I saw you.
Well, I just got back today from Oregon, and I've been traveling. I've been going to Hawaii and Miami. I did about 10 cities, so I'm going to take a couple of days off and then go back on the road.
Nice. Okay. So, what are you joking about a lot these days? I mean, do you? Because I know that personally you like to keep up with politics. Do you comment a lot about that when you're in your shows?
Well, I guess that kind of played out in my mind. You know, the jokes about Trump are many. You know, they're overwhelming. But I like to concentrate now on minutia. You know, the small things in life, you know, the things that are people don't notice, you know. For example, things that annoy you. There's a lot of material there, you know, relationships, friends, borrowing money, lending money. There's a lot of interaction with that sort of thing. Last night's show, I was interrupted by this lady who had a I don't know, a seizure of some kind, and people continue to laugh, and I start to think about that, and I go, they thought it was part of the show, and it wasn't. Even when the paramedics were there, everybody thought it was a setup, and I'm concerned about her life, and it was the weirdest show I've ever done in my life. Yesterday in Oregon.
Oh man, that's terrible. Was she okay?
I don't know. I don't know because. They took her, and the show must go on, and it did. But people were asking me, was that a plant? And I said, well, why would I think that somebody faking a seizure would be funny?
Yeah.
But it's weird. I don't know if, there's different kinds of laughter. There's like nervous laughter, and then there's like uncontrollable laughter, and then there's like guilt laughter. It was a learning experience for me because I never experienced anything like that.
Wow. Huh. I mean,
yeah.
do something like that. Does that? Have you ever had any other? I know you didn't experience like that exactly, but how often do you encounter something in a show that throws you for a loop? That's strange, right?
Well, in almost 40 years of this, I've probably had everything from a shootout at Lincoln Park. When I was younger, there was a gang violence.
Wow.
I was in the middle of a comedy concert, and let me see, I went to San Quentin, and I thought I've heard everything, you know. Then hecklers, of course, drunken women heckling you is the worst, because even if you get back at them, the audience will turn on you. And it's really, yesterday's experience was really weird because they thought that was a setup, and I didn't set anything up. I mean, I just do my show, but I was out in the middle of the audience talking to them, and they didn't know what to expect. You know, they thought there was a part of the show, and they're laughing, and I'm trying to tell them that no, call an ambulance. This lady's really sick. And the more I did it, the more they laughed, and it was really, really strange.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
So nothing's ever happened like that before.
Wow.
Even in San Quentin, you know. There was tension, nervous laughter, but nothing like that.
So, what is it like doing a show like San Quentin? I mean, when you're saying nervous tension, you mean that the comics are. I mean, that it's nerve wracking as a comic to worry about like pissing off that level of tough guy, or
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Well, the first time I went there, I went part of the Fox Saturday Night Comics, Sunday Night Comics. They had a program years ago, and it was Richard Jenny, it was myself, George Wallace, and Lane Boozler, and I forget who else it was, but we all went up there. They briefed you. They tell you not to get off stage. That these people are not actors. They're convicts and stuff. But for me, it was very tempting. You know, I was the second to the last comic, and everything was pretty played out. It was this kind of tension, and I don't know what possessed me, but I jumped out into the audience, and I walked up to the biggest guy I could find. It was a Samoan guy. He stood about 7 foot tall. He's a real giant in there. And I just started talking to him, and it was probably one of the best shows of my life because it got picked up by Fox, and that led to other things. But it was none of it was planned out. You know, I just simply walked up to him and I said, you know, if I ever wind up in this place, I want to be your bitch. I said, because, you know, at least I'll only deal with you. I won't have to deal with these other guys. And everybody just started to laugh. And then it was, I look back at it, and it was risky, but I guess all comedy is risk, really. You know, you try out things, and if they succeed, then you're a genius, and if they don't, then you're an idiot. So there's no middle ground for comics. You're either on one side or the other.
Yeah, wow. So then, is there like all-time weirdest moment for you in out of
Well, I guess the all-time weirdest moment, I was playing the Playboy Club in New York on 5th and Madison. There used to be a Playboy Club there, the flagship of the Playboy Empire, and
yeah.
I was a comedian in between this big burlesque show, and in the middle of that, they announced that John Lennon had just been shot down the street, really, and people started to cry, and the girls were dancing. They weren't dancing all that well, and then my segment came out, and it was really hard, and I went out there and did what I could. I said, I understand you guys are the pain, but the show must go on, and I went on and did my show. Got no laughs. The girls came out, and they took their clothes off, and nobody paid attention to them. It was the weirdest situation, you know. I guess the second weirdest was one in Vegas, right after the night after the big shooting that happened in the Mandalay Bay. All the execs had an award show that I hosted, and Ralphie May won the comedian of the year in Vegas, and he didn't show up. Later, we found out he had passed away.
Oh, geez, yeah, I heard about
that. The next day, it was strange, you know. Wow. After that, I don't see anything else that could top that. I mean, I've been through it all.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it, man. Well, what would you say out of all the things you've done is like a favorite career moment? You know, that you're proudest of?
Well, going to Harvard with Tim Conway, and I forget the name of this. He used to have a show called The Comedy Mine, and it was used to run on PBS, I think, and they had us all there at Harvard for the Hasty Pudding Club, and it was quite a group. I'm trying to remember his name. He was
Was it Steve Allen?
No, it wasn't Steve Allen. It was the other guy with the cigar all the time.
Oh, George Burns?
Not George Burns.
Oh, sorry.
One more.
I don't know. Man, sorry.
I'm trying to think. I mean, my mind is leaving me right now, but
yeah, no problem.
He used to do in the Comedy Vine. Oh God, he did movies with Billy Crystal.
Oh man. Man,
older guy. He used to talk about her, you know.
Oh, Alan King.
Alan King, yeah, you go.
Okay, there we go.
We went to Harvard with Alan King, and he took it was 5 of us. It was we're sitting around discussing about that, and it was really flowing good. And one of the deans or somebody asked about, you know, being at Harvard, was I impressed? And I said, hell yeah, I'm impressed. You know, I mean, Harvard is where all the South American presidents and dictators come to learn how to screw their people. You know, and the last three presidents of Mexico had were Harvard graduates, and this is where they refine their skills on how to really stick it to us.
Oh wow!
And
yeah,
and it was, you know, they laughed. I don't know exactly what I said, but something along those lines. And
that's funny.
Well, you know, the truth is always the funniest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, one thing that you know, I mean, you're saying you don't like joking about the political situation right now on stage, but in general, have you encountered, because you seem to lean more conservative than liberal, as do I. So in general, has that caused ever any friction for you in showbiz or you know?
Well, you know, I mean, because I'm an immigrant and a minority, people expect you to be liberal, but I believe that the older you get, it's a natural thing to become conservative. You know, you start seeing the other side of the picture. You know, and you know, one day they called me to go to CNN for Don Lemon, and they had these South American immigrants that they had arrested, and everybody was asking for sanctuary, and I don't even know what I was doing on that panel. I guess all the other Latino politicians didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, and I said that because they were all children, really, and I said we shouldn't be uncompassionate. We should really take care of these children and repatriate them. And they, boy, I got a lot of heat for that. But what was trying to say is that we don't know how to take care of the kids we have here now. You know, you got kids in 40 to a classroom, and you're going to accept more. I mean, it's made me sound like some kind of ungrateful immigrant, but I guess the older you get, you just start thinking about the best solutions. Sometimes they're not popular, but, you know, they are the best solutions.
Yeah, yeah. So, how do you feel about this? The way the state of comedy today? Do you feel that it's booming, or it seems like it's in the middle of a big boom because of Netflix and things like that fueling a lot of it? No, or
well, I think the internet changed all that. The internet has made. It used to be you work on 5 minutes of material to do Carson. That was the goal. Now, you know, the internet has become the pawn shop of your material. I mean, by the time you get home, if you work at a club, it's on the internet, you know, and it doesn't have a lot of shelf life, you know. You know, it used to be that people would listen to Johnny Carson. He'd do the 5 minutes about the state of the state or whatever it was, and you went to bed. But now you got Conan. People aren't even impartial anymore. They're either all for. They're very liberals. You know, you're Bill Maher's, and then you got your very conservative. Well, most of television is liberal, I think.
Yeah.
But the few conservatives get kicked off, and people relegate them to being a nut, like your Bill O'Reillys and stuff like that, and your Rush Limbaugh's, and it's very polarized. So if you go in front of an audience and you happen to have a different point of view from them, it's risky, you know. So you have to kind of go out there and put out feelers. You know, are they Trump supporters? Are they Trump haters? Or how do they feel about this or that? And you know, we don't really have a Mort Saul, a guy that used to be impartial or used to poke fun at the system, or Will Rogers type, you know.
Yeah.
Now they're either in the pocket or they're either for or against it. You know, it's very, very polarized.
Yeah.
So as a comedian, you have to really watch what you say, you know, and it didn't used to be like that.
Yeah. So, what keeps you inspired with comedy? I mean, you're still, since you're saying, you know, people have to keep creating new material. So, I mean, do you write very often? Like, what's your creative process? Or,
well,
you know?
Well, I'm you know, I'm older now. I'm concentrating more or less on trying to produce things.
Yeah.
And it just the traveling has become harder, and
yeah.
And there's a distance between the new generation and the old. You know, I mean, I myself, I find myself trying to understand. Well, what does it mean? You know, they change all the words. You know, when I was growing up, dope meant, you know, you're dope, and now it means good. And bad means bad, and bad means is a positive thing. Is they've changed the words